Can I just begin today by appreciating my audience? Please, thank you for joining me on the Ben Kuah Show. I hope that you derive as much pleasure from the show as I derive in presenting to you, my audience, and especially for those who leave comments, both positive and negative. I appreciate you taking the time to comment on what I have presented. I will begin the show today. First of all, I am tackling the issue of that has been in the headlines this week. And for some, it has been a positive week in the resistance. For others, I don't know. And so the question, the topic of the day is, has this been a good week in the struggle for the liberation of the Southern Cameroons? Let me begin the show today by quoting Frederick Douglass, the ex-slave who became a leader of the anti-slavery movement. Here is the quote: "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters." Frederick Douglass. And so the past week has brought to the fore two events, both emanating from La République du Cameroon. One from the university and the other from parliament. It is a story of Southern Cameroon students in the university and a Southern Cameroonian parliamentarian making himself available for duty in La République du Cameroon's parliament. Let me take the issue of the university. It is a sad day and a sad circumstance when you read scholars of our people, potential scholars, jump with glee for the simple fact that their struggle is identified in a hall of learning. It is so bad that our young men and our young women will feel a sense of worth, will feel pride that a La République du Cameroon acknowledges that there is an Anglophone problem. That is the sad stage at which these people have put us. So for some, when I saw the reaction online, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, and so on and so forth, of people jumping up that, oh, they finally discussed, they put the topic of the day in the history department was the Anglophone problems, and that the professors came, put their topics of the day aside, and started talking about the Anglophone problem and acknowledging it. And people were getting happy about that. I reflected, is this how far these people had diminished our sense of worth, our sense of identity? You know, sometimes when you are in the eye of the storm, you really do not see the full scope of it. But our self-worth as a people have been battered and attacked so much for over 56 years that we feel as if it is progress for a La République du Cameroonian to acknowledge our problem, in their terms, an Anglophone problem. There is no Anglophone problem in La République du Cameroon. There is none. Anybody, it is an assassination of history to talk about an Anglophone problem in Cameroon. There is none. There were never. La République du Cameroon was a Francophone colony. If they had a problem during the Maquisard uprising, it was an insurgency in La République du Cameroon. It wasn't an Anglophone problem. If they have a problem with those who originate from the north, they have an ethnic problem between the Betis and the Yauzas and the Nordis, or the Betis and the Bamlikes. There is no Anglophone problem in La République du Cameroon. I can understand a period when the southern Cameroons are on their own. I can understand those La République du Cameroonian who learns English and operate in English. I can understand if they feel that they as La République du Cameroonian citizens are not appreciated because they went to an Anglo-Saxon education system, and so they don't have the same opportunities in the land of their birth. Then and only then do they have an Anglophone problem. You get me? So when their parliament passes a law that they are creating the court system, and those that are going to be in common law must have an Anglo-Saxon background. Note the nuances of that and the nuances of what I am just presenting. Yeah. Being Vondo's child or his nephew might decide to go to England to a school and does his schooling, gets his law degree, writes his bar and passes, and is appointed head of the common law section in La République du Cameroon's court system. He has an Anglo-Saxon background. It doesn't change the fact that he is being Vondo's nephew. Does it? So no. The history that was taught that day and our people jumped for joy was a sham, because there is no Anglophone problem in Cameroon. There is an issue of a nation that is under occupation, slated for extermination by another nation. During the trusteeship era, the League of Nations did not stand and say that La République du Cameroon is trustee of category A and the Southern Cameroons is trustee category B, and only category A has independence and category B doesn't have independence. No. So the issue at stake is absolutely clear, and our people at this late hour must be able to recognize when they are being bamboozled. I should not have been reading this report with glee, sent in with glee by a student. Glee and absolutely in awe of the fact that his problem was discussed. I should have been reading disgust and distaste, and him standing up in class and saying, no, this is not an Anglophone problem. That is not the history. This is a problem of an illegal occupation of one people by another. That is what they should have been doing in class, rather than sitting there with their mouths open as if they are seeing the second coming because somebody acknowledges that they have an issue. People have died. So we must all be in a state of resistance, constant resistance. When you see something being presented as on your behalf, first of all, look at if that is a poison apple being given to you, before you are seduced by the camouflage of the issue. We should be very, very clear-eyed. Very clear-eyed. Because what is happening is a colonized people who for long have looked at us as nothing. Because take for example, even in this issue, in that presentation, let me go online and read some of this stuff. Let me just read some of this. This is what the reporter sent in, which I'm happy that he sent in a report so that I can pick apart and I learn and he also learns. I became more flabbergasted with the presence of Professor Wanyaka Virginie, a pure French-speaking lecturer who had never spoken English since the day I knew her, coupled with the fact that she detests Anglophones. Came in and for once spoke to my delight. She admits the fact that Anglophones have been badly treated in Cameroon and wonders why the government has chosen to aggregate the situation, given the fact that they had been complaining for years. That is, the Anglophone has been complaining for years. And she went through all this. But here is the point that I want to pick apart just a little bit. She traced the start of the Anglophones problem right from the presidential decree of 1984, which stipulated that henceforth the name of the country would be La République du Cameroun, which gave way for the regime to manage our resources and affairs. This, amongst other, culminated. So for her, that culminated to the marginalization of the Anglophones. So, ladies and gentlemen, you see why I talk about poison apple and poison pill being given to people and they are receiving it with joy. The Southern Cameroon's issue, if that is what she was talking about, did not begin in 1984 with a decree that restores La République du Cameroun. Our people had been under occupation from the first day, and as one of my colleagues just indicated to me, they started ruling, taking our land before Fumban even. So folks, it is this type of situation that goes unchallenged, and you let these people make like ducks, and they get away with murder. The Southern Cameroon's issue with La République du Cameroon never started in 1984. By 1984, they were entering the last phase. That is the final solution. That was 1984. But for the grace of God, that during that time, a group of kids, not university students, kids in secondary and high schools in the Southern Cameroons stood up. Because if they hadn't, maybe I'll be one of those people who abandoned school. Because you know what? I remember I was still a kid. I don't know how I remember this stuff. I was still a kid. I went to a bazaar at the Big Mancon. You know, they had this big bazaar. I don't know what is going on today. I went there as a kid, and my brother who was in Sacred Heart took me to a game. I don't know. I think it was PWD Bamenda against Tonnerre or Kamak. I think it was PWD against Tonnerre. I know the opponent was from La République du Cameroun, Tonnerre. And in that game, I got separated from him. I was a little kid and got lost. But that game did not end. Because as usual, even in our own land, we were cheated. And so rioting started in the middle of in the game. And I got separated from my brother, and I don't know how I found myself home. But it was during that agitation when these guys, as I was saying, that they were entering the final solution. I think they had passed a law that if you do not pass French within the GCE, then you fail. No matter how many papers that you get. You must pass French. You know. And as students just went haywire. But for the grace of God that they did. Because you know what? It's a personal story. Of all the subjects that I took during the GCE O level, I failed French. I failed French. Was I sad then? I do not think. For me, that had always been, it had not mattered at all. I wear that as a badge of honor right now. But that is how generations pay for other generations. And it is the time of this generation of students and people of the Southern Cameroons to pay forward to the next generation. So no, folks, don't sit down and you hear this truncated history being given to sanitize you and you take it. Agitate, no matter where you are. Listen know that it's a double-edged sword. Always look for the underbelly of what is being presented to you, because there is always an underbelly. And they are doing this. They are doing this because we have finally stood up and we are speaking plainly. And now you see the colonizers washing their hands. You heard the description of this lecturer, a French who have never Francophone, who have never spoken English, who detest Anglophone. That is the description of her. And you know what she said at the end of this report? The problem, that is, let me quote that lecturer that I just described to you. The problem is with the government and not with Francophones. And she calls for more interaction between students of the two linguistic background. And ended by saying that our government is sick. These are now Pontius Pilates washing their hands and jumping ship. This student described this woman aptly. But you hear what she's saying. It's not with Francophones. It's how many of us have faced contempt, derision, absolute animosity from this normal, everyday Francophone who looked at you as a Biafra, l'ennemi dans la maison, les Anglo, les Anglophobes. Our history is littered with such contempt, such derision, such absolute animosity. How many of them, after all of you were deprived of your internet, how many of them stood up in solidarity with you? How many? With everything that is going on in the land, with girls being raped, taken out, and rolled into feces, how many of them, how many have shown solidarity? And they will stand up and they talk about the problem is not with Francophones, but with the government. Our government is sick. What government? Do they have a government? This is an intellectual. I bet you in her pocket, she is carrying France CFA that I described to you on this set. An acronym coined Colonie Française Africaine. I can bet you in her purse, she carries notes of France CFA on it. And he's talking about our government. What government? You know, a lot of people saw this as a step. As I opened the show and I talked about the idea of, was there progress this week? Do we look at it as a week that there was progress in the resistance? And some people have been pointing this out as a progress. Of course not. That's not. Which takes me into the second point of what I presented today. The appearance of the Honorable gentleman from Jakiri in La République du Cameroon's parliament. Was that progress? You know, I am going to read, maybe in its entirety. I think I will do it in its entirety. A letter signed by Honorable Wiba Joseph Bitzenywe, MP, Bui South Jakiri, Bui Division. The letter was sent out on March 28, 2017, and addressed to members of parliament. Honorable members of parliament, the representative of the people of West Cameroon. Right, honorable members, dear colleagues, subject, historical moment to stand together for the people of West Cameroon. I have chosen this dark moment in our history to write you from exile, following the vicious manhunt to put me in chains and an attempt on my life by a government that believes the people of West Cameroon are a lower caste of humans who must be kept in bondage and servitude. This is your moment in history in which all of you, without exception, must stand together in the name of the suffering, oppressed, and struggling people of West Cameroon. Our people have been mistreated, humiliated, tortured, jailed, exiled, and others killed, merely for peacefully asking for their basic fundamental rights as a people with a distinct cultural heritage and a dignified way of life. They have endured systematic and traumatic abuse for over half a century, and we all can testify that they have had enough. As the representatives of the people that you are, you have witnessed in each of your constituencies the collective will and the dogged determination of our people to resist oppression in order to have a voice and a place in their own land. Our children and their teachers have been out of school for months. Our lawyers have been out of court for much longer. The general masses from every village to every town have joined the struggle to take back our freedom. Our brothers and sisters in the diaspora have fought and struggled along with the people in every way imaginable. The world has taken notice that our people are in bondage and in various ways expressed support for them. You, their representatives, are the only group left that has not supported the people in their desperate hour of need. You must stand together now and join your people in their struggle or face the consequences of inaction and silence. Honorable members, this is the moment that you, representatives of the people of West Cameroon, from Boyo, Bui, Ndoga Mantum, Fako, Kupe Maninguba, Lebialem, Manyu, Meme, Menchum, Mezam, Momo, Ndian, and Gokotunja must stage a protest in the name of our people and walk out of the Cameroon National Assembly together. This is your historic moment to stand in solidarity with the people and save them from 56 years of slavery. If you lose this chance, our people and history will never forgive you. God is with us, and He will bless and protect you all for standing up for His people. This was signed by Honorable Weber in exile. This week, we found Honorable Weber walking the halls of Parliament in La République du Cameroun with his colleagues from those 13 folks. You know, I think that the Honorable Member of Parliament for La République du Cameroun expressed in his letter a wish that most people of Ambazonia had been wishing for the parliamentarians to take, a step that they should take, a step that has precedence in history, a step that has precedence in history. How? The incorporation of the British Southern Cameroons into the Eastern House of Nigeria made the Southern Cameroons to look more like a colony than a mandate. This was resented by British Southern Cameroonians, and this explains why nationalism in the Southern Cameroons was more anti-Nigerian than anti-British. In July 1951, after several years of negotiations and discussion, a new constitution was granted to Nigeria and the British Southern Cameroon. This was the outcome of the Ibadan conference that held in 1950. As a consequence of the new constitution, the British Southern Cameroon was able to conduct the first parliamentary election in the territory. The election brought the first Southern Cameroonian representatives in the Eastern House of Assembly in Enugu, Nigeria, and in the Federal House of Assembly in Lagos, Nigeria. The forced union between the British Southern Cameroons and the eastern region of Nigeria proved to be a failure. Dissatisfied with the domineering attitude of Nigerian politicians, British Southern Cameroonian representatives in the Eastern House of Assembly in Enugu declared benevolent neutrality and walked out of the house in 1954. At the London Constitutional Conference in 1954, the British government agreed that British Southern Cameroon should separate from the Eastern House of Nigeria and enjoy autonomous self-government within the Federation of Nigeria. The Southern Cameroon's parliament was created in 1954. The Southern Cameroon's parliament was created in 1954, with Dr. Ndele becoming the first premier. The Southern Cameroon's parliament had 13 elected members, 6 members selected from the native authorities, 6 ex officio members, and 2 appointed special members representing women and commerce. The KNC Congress of Dr. Ndele was the majority party in the Southern Cameroon's parliament. Another important political party was the KNDP of John Good Foncha, who was then the opposition. Folks, I read this in conjunction with the letter from Honorable Weber to juxtapose what he was referring to as walking out of La Republique's parliament and what Southern Cameroonians did in Enugu 56 years ago. The issue I have, the biggest issue that I found with the honorable gentleman's letter is his consistent massaging of history. It's a fine line between what is clear and correct history and what is a history. When these guys walk out of the Eastern House of Assembly in Nigeria, they did not form a West Cameroon parliament. They form a Southern Cameroon's parliament. A Southern Cameroon's parliament. A parliament from Ambazonia. West Cameroon is a La Republique creation. It's a one Cameroon creation. And so when you insist on telling history, not in its entirety, but in a truncated form, you do disservice to historical facts. It is a historical fact that the parliament formed in Boya was a Southern Cameroon. You want to go absolute. A British Southern Cameroon's parliament. But it is great to have honest politicians, and nobody can fault Honorable Joseph Weber on his honesty, because he has never, throughout his reading and throughout his pronouncements, he has never ever profess to be something that he is not. He has never, ever called himself or protested or advocated for the Southern Cameroons. And so people should not project onto him their hopes and their dreams and then say he betrayed them, because he is one of the honest politicians in that La République du Cameroon parliament. Folks, listen to his words, read his words. He has never been a champion for the independence of the Southern Cameroons from La République du Cameroon. He has always stood on the West Cameroon moniker, and the West is the West Cameroon, East Cameroon. That is a quote-unquote federalist stand. So please, you get the leaders you deserve. Don't project onto somebody things that it is not him, and then tomorrow you turn and you say that that person betrayed you. That is a lie. So don't, especially for those who want to say that the honorable chairman, the honorable member of La République du Cameroon's parliament betrayed them. He did not betray anybody. He has never come out and profess something that he is not standing on today. It has always been his stand. And so our people, and that is what you see, I open with these two issues. The issues of our students sitting in class and someone, which here I have it. This is a confidential document. Right? Ambassade de France ou Cameroon, from the embassy of France in Cameroon. How they are talking, how they have to, how many generations it would take to impose that the whole of the Southern Cameroon, British Southern Cameroon, becomes a French entity. Right there. So when I talk about the history of this woman, when I talk about the history of this woman, when he starts talking about the decree that Biya signed in 1980, that was they were entering the final solution for our people. You know? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not, I mean, just think about this. This is Michel, who is this? Michel Nourou, Consul de France à Boya. Monsieur le chargé d'affaires de France à Yaoundé. So that's him addressing. Stamped by the French ambassade de France to Cameroon, stamped and sent over to Paris. Talking about, I mean, look, as I told you guys, I feel French. I feel French. So, you know, it's I don't know. It's a distaste for me. I am sorry for those who love French. It's a distaste for me based on what I have been forced to swallow in my bondage, in my slavery, in my occupation, to read anything in French. Le Cameroun occidental est encore un État anglophone et la francophonie. So that's it. Mr. Weber is talking about West Cameroon, the French, you see that's where Le Cameroun occidental. And encore, he say he's still an anglophone state, un État anglophone. Et la francophonie, he say, and he wrote, et la francophonie emploi général et usuel de la langue française n'est pas à la ville des Symposés. So this is why I say that it is still an Anglophone state, and the Francophonie, which is usual, as he say, in French, that the Francophonie, which is usual, is not imposed there, and the French language is not, la langue française n'est pas à la veille de s'imposer. That the French language is not even at the edge of being imposed. Folks, this is something that was signed 22nd October 1967. 1967. How many years to where Professor Virginie, the French professor, how many years before Pobia was signing that? It's 1967. She's taking her history, starting it at 1984. And so we must be careful. I'm not going to read all of this. It's somebody will have to translate it. But I mean, you get it. You get the top of it. But folks, this is why history is so important and why documents are so important. So I take issue with the moniker of West Cameroon employed by Mr. Weber, but I am not taking issue with the fact that he went back to La République's palace, because he never ever fooled anybody about anything. Yeah, I mean, you can talk about hypocrisy that he called his colleagues to walk out of the parliament. They did not, and he went back and joined them. You can talk about all that, which in a sense might bring me to this to this quote, that there is a great difference between being concerned and being committed. When you are concerned, it's negotiable, right? When you are committed, it is non-negotiable. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, we deserve the leaders that we get. We deserve the leaders that we get. When you open your eyes and you look at things carefully, you consider them, you are able to make rational decisions. This is not a time for Southern Cameroonians to be emotional. Our eyes should be cleared. When you have faced death, when you have faced death, your eyes and your mind should be as sharp and as clear as a razor blade. As sharp, such that, yes, Weber is a very courageous gentleman. Very courageous. Absolutely somebody to be proud of in La République du Cameroon's parliament. To stand up and to challenge them in their halls of power. That is what you wish any parliamentarian anywhere in the world able to do. In the same sense, you can look at his colleagues, the colleagues that he wrote this letter, and none of them responded. He has gone back and joined them. You can look at them. The Mumu sat there as he was being heckled by what this Virginie, did he term their government? I said those were representatives of the Francophones that were heckling the honorable gentleman, who, to him, as he sees it, and in the arena that he is playing, was representing his people, as he sees it, as he sees fit, standing there for them, talking about murder and stuff. And it was like a playground, buddies. It was like a playground. Can you hear? Did I just cover my face on it? The gentleman who is the head of the parliament, do you hear him in those clips? They're asking you to go, you know, the honorable gentleman from Mr. Weber was asking you a question. When are you going to? This is after they have kept internet from his part of the country, or the so-called country that they say that is one country. After they have murdered his people, after schools are not going on, people are on strike, after he had been followed, as he said, hunted in the bush like a little rat. And the man who should have been protecting him, who should have been looking at his concern, he is standing up there on that stage and asking that man, when are you going to put the issues of my constituent on the agenda? My General Pompa. Can you respond, General Pompa? And then he's being heckled by the people, and his own people from his own party. As they did not even just stage a walkout and stand in the hall. Even to shout and ask the head of the, shame on you, can't you answer? Is a member of your own parliament posing you a question. Oh my goodness. It was such fun times. But if people looked at it as a step in the right direction in the struggle, no folks. It was a step, it was a blow to the struggle. Unfortunately, it was. I am not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sweeten it. Mr. Weber's appearance in that parliament was a step back in a struggle for the independence of our people. Because you know what? As Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. The limits of a tyrant are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. His presence in that parliament did not push the struggle forward. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. Thank you.